morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this morning, Natasha's Law Part 2. Really warm welcome to everybody. Hope you're having a great day so far. In this session, really delighted to have Claire Steve from Nutritics with us, and our Sector Development Chef, Danny Silcock, with us. This session is really great if you're currently choosing your solutions to support you with Natasha's Law compliance, which can seem like a bit of an arduous task at the moment, we sort of recognise. Natasha's Law is obviously only 3 months away, so you may be looking at ways that you can automate your processes to cut out human error. Today we're going to hopefully take you through some great solutions and how you can best prepare, really building on that first session that we did. So I would also recommend going back and watching the first session if you've not had a chance to do so. But today we're going to be taking through a bit of a guided tour of some of the features of our solution at Brakes Virtual Chef Online, which offers you a complete and unique software solution for recipe management, so automated allergen and calorie identification, menu planning. It's got a label maker. It will help you manage your costs and waste, and gives you that real-time access to Brakes products and prices via the data feed. And a slight change to that advertised programme, as I say, I'm joined by Danny and Claire, who will be taking you through it. And just to let you know, it's a live session today. Claire and Danny will be on hand to help answer any questions at the end, so do feel free to submit them as we go through the Q&A function on your Zoom toolbar. And we've also got really helpful resource to share with you at the end and a bit more information, so do stay on for that if you can. Without further ado, I'll pass over to Claire. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Fran, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here again today, just helping to explain a little bit more how Brakes partnering with Nutritics can help businesses with solutions moving forward. And I think this session is going to be really useful because it's going to tackle the concerns that most food businesses have as the implementation of Natasha's Law gets closer. So you said already, Fran, that it's just over 3 months away. But instead of just looking at maybe some of the concerns that businesses have, what we're going to hope to do today as well is show how Brakes have the solutions that are needed to get everyone ready, both with the range of services they offer, but also with the technical software solutions via their partnerships with Nutritics. And I think that's what businesses need at the moment, that expert guidance and accessible solutions. So I hope this session will help to demonstrate how help and support is available to those businesses. But before we go into any great detail, I just very quickly want to recap on what Natasha's Law is, because I still think there's a little bit of confusion out there of businesses not quite understanding the why and the what of Natasha's Law. So it comes into effect on October the 1st this year, and it will require food businesses in the UK to provide full ingredient lists and allergen labelling on foods that are pre-packaged for direct sale on its premises. And I'll touch on the pre-pack for direct sale in a moment and what those foods are. The legislation is being introduced to protect allergy sufferers and give them confidence in the food they buy. The amendment has been brought about due to the actions of a lobbying group led by the parents of Natasha, Edna and Laperouse. And Natasha is the teenager who sadly died after suffering an allergic reaction to an undeclared ingredient in a pre-packed meal. So due to the efforts of that lobbying group, the government confirmed that stronger laws would be implemented to protect those with food allergies and just to give them greater confidence in the food they buy. So what are PPDS foods, or pre-packed for direct sale foods? So according to new rules, those foods will have to clearly display the following information on the packaging, which is the name of the food and a full ingredient list with allergenic ingredients emphasised, and that can be in bold, italics or in a different colour. And it is important, especially if you're running a food business, to understand the pre-pack for direct sale food element. So that basically means they are foods that have been packed on the same premises from which they've been sold. And the new labelling will be required on that food that is pre-packed for sale. So it's food that's been offered to customers, and the most common or the easiest way to explain that is either it's sandwiches or salads that customers can pick up and purchase themselves from the premises. It's pre-wrapped foods kept behind the counter, as well as some products packaged and sold at mobile or temporary outlets. So there is quite a lot to consider between now and the 1st of October. And I'm delighted to have Danny Silcock, the Brakes Sector Development Chef, join me today. And we're going to explore together how businesses can best utilise these next 3 months to put processes and solutions in place to be ready, and just really delve into what it means for them, and also how Brakes can support businesses in navigating the road ahead. So hi Danny, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Could we just start with you telling us all a little bit about your background, and also explaining in a bit more detail what the Dev Chef service is and the benefits that can bring to Brakes customers?
Yeah, of course I can, Claire. Morning, everybody. Hope you're well. I've remembered to take myself off mute. It was my first challenge, so hopefully you can all hear me. So yeah, Danny Silcock, Sector Development Chef, working for Brakes. I've been with the business now for 7 years. Previous to that, I've sort of worked industry for 19, 20 years, I suppose, in a number of locations, from independent restaurants through to large corporate hotels, contract caterers, care and hospital. So I've got kind of a good broad knowledge, if you like. And the way I very much see food is food. It's just how you apply it for the various areas, if you like, whether you're serving somebody in hospitality, in a hospital or a care home. Ultimately, it's about what you do with it. Part of my role within Brakes, we speak about it an awful lot, is adding value to customers, and that's basically through menu support, recipe ideas, menu suggestions, and obviously, you know, what we're here today for really is to discuss the allergen information and the Natasha's law, if you like. So we're almost, you know, sort of consultants to a degree, offering a level of service to customers where they need it. That could be, like I say, any of the above I've mentioned, but also training and development as well, and just helping sites overcoming issues and coming up with solutions that will help them ultimately. So that's a little bit about me. Do you want me to touch on the system, or are we going to go into that surely?
No, don't worry, Dan. I think we'll touch on that in a moment, actually. It was just kind of understanding the service that you guys offer, because I think it's really important to show how Brakes isn't just a supplier of food, but can also provide many more wraparound service, the Dev Chef service being one of those. And I think that's hugely important at the moment, especially after the turbulent 15 months that everyone's been experiencing, and you know, is still being experienced. We know that there's still many challenges to overcome, so it's important to know how Brakes can help with that by running, for example, the helpful hospitality campaigns that Brakes are focusing on at the moment. Webinars such as this, you know, providing help and guidance, not just on Natasha's law, but everything from Brexit to how to pair your food or drink to food trends that are coming up as well. And I know that Fran's going to share some more information about those webinars later on in this session. But also there's a lot of kind of back of house work being done by Brakes too. And one of those big areas that we're going to focus on today is around ensuring, first of all, that all of the products that Brakes sell have the correct allergen information contained within it. So there's been a huge amount of work going in there. So the allergen information being shared is collated and is accurate and reliable. And then finally, yes, let's move on to Virtual Chef Online, which is probably one of the newest solutions that Brakes have had to offer in the last few months. So let me just take a couple of moments to explain how Virtual Chef alongside the Dev Chef service works. So it is a system software solution. It's not just to get businesses ready for Natasha's law, but it is also to future-proof businesses for changes that will happen. Food legislation is being reviewed all the time, and we're already hearing news about some more changes that may be coming into effect as early as next year. So it's really important now to find that right solution that's going to grow and move with you in the months and the years to come. Fran, probably the best place to start is we've prepared a little video for Virtual Chef. So perhaps if we can play that first of all, it will help to explain in a bit more detail what the solution is.
Keeping your food business compliant can be daunting, especially when legislation changes. Allergen labelling is business critical, especially if you're preparing food on site. Supplier changes and substitutions, not to mention human error, can be a huge burden. Smart businesses know that automated solutions can save time and reduce risk. This is why Brakes and Nutritics have partnered to bring you Virtual Chef Online, a cloud-based solution tailor-made for busy food businesses. It has revolutionized the way food businesses operate. No matter your industry, managing your recipes, menus, and labels has never been easier. First, build your recipes. The software automatically calculates nutritional values and scans for allergens. All your live Brakes data is fed over real time. Then, plan your menus. Assess cost, monitor waste, popularity, and ROI. Publish your menu to a TV, tablet, or customers' phones for display. Now, create your labels. Drag and drop everything you need for beautiful, fully compliant labels. Any ingredient changes made in your supply chain are automatically reflected in your menus and labels, giving you the ultimate peace of mind. Virtual Chef Online is the only all-in-one recipe, menu, and labeling software on the market. With real-time access to Brakes products and prices, it is proven to increase operational efficiency and save you time. Designed with the Brakes development chefs, we have you covered from start to finish. Trusted by thousands of businesses worldwide, Virtual Chef Online is the complete solution for all of your food technology needs, making it easier than ever to comply with food law now and in the future. Ask for a demo today.
Oh, thanks, Fran, for playing that video. Not always easy to switch on virtual Zoom. So that was a very quick introduction to Virtual Chef Online. So just to summarise there, the easiest way to think about it is of Virtual Chef as a big warehouse where all of your Brakes products are stored, and it can include other supplier products in there as well. And all of those products hold up-to-date ingredient information and allergen markers. You can walk around that warehouse, pick the products that make up your individual recipes and weigh them. And just by choosing those right products and inserting the quantity used of each ingredient into Virtual Chef means that the system will automatically calculate allergens and nutritional data. And you can be assured that the data being produced is accurate and reliable, which is key. And recipe management is the hub of Virtual Chef. So once those recipes are being built, the power of what you can then use that same information for is limitless. So as we saw in the video, it can be used to create labels and print them seamlessly. You can design, review and maintain menus and publish those digitally and or on paper if you choose. But most importantly, all of the controls are in place to manage things like product substitutions, ingredient changes, cyclical and seasonal menu changes, because it's a single source of the truth for all of your staff, alongside providing full control of label printing so that that right label can be printed at the right time for the right product. So what we're trying to do with Brakes is really lift that burden of businesses by being that hub, by being that warehouse, so that all of your supplier data is in place, and it allows you then to connect all of the operational dots to run your businesses safely and more efficiently. So Danny, I'm going to come back over to you. And I know that you've been using Virtual Chef now in the development chef region, both for yourselves and for customers as well. Could you perhaps just outline briefly for us some of the benefits that you're already starting to see it bring for both you and your role and the customers that you're working with?
Yeah, no, definitely. So we sort of picked up on this 6 or 8 months ago now. Previously we've had other systems. We had something internally that was built and designed around sort of what we wanted, but we actually found that it became very, very clunky as far as development chefs, as a team within Brakes. We were very much turning into sort of admin folk, if you like, and I mean that nicely, of course, but it was very much, if something wasn't right for a customer, they'd come back to us, can you change it, because it was managed internally by Brakes. And like you say, if a particular site has a substitution for a product for that day, and let's just take an English muffin for example, it's a change of code, a change of spec, they have a recipe for a breakfast muffin, actually they need to change that allergy information there and then. So by having this tool gives them the functionality to ultimately change it live time, it gets updated, and they can crack on, if you like, with their day. As far as myself, how I found it useful, as I said at the start, my background is chef. I know chicken and eggs and fish very well, and I'm quite happy in that zone, if you like. Always nervous and a little bit skeptical about sort of new things and change, if you like, and I appreciate that from a catering background. However, having had the demo from yourselves at Nutritics in quite some detail, it actually becomes very, very easy to build recipes. Really, really straightforward in the fact that all, as we've mentioned, all Brakes data is loaded in the background. So it's just simply a search code, as you would search on a Brakes website or search in a Google website, if you like. And it basically just works off drag and drop. So find your code, drop it in there, and off you go. Add your quantities in. And like I say, the rest, I would say, is history. Your allergen information's there, your nutritional information. I think nutritional information is going to become more apparent as well, and certainly in the area I work in with care, it's about making sure calories are correct and stuff. But I think post as we come out of COVID, or we come a little bit further out of COVID, should I say, there will be an emphasis more on healthy eating as well. And I appreciate the allergens is what we're here today, but ultimately it's that end-to-end tool, so all the information is there. What I found really useful from it as well is the costing element from it. So as I'm developing recipes, whether that be for internal or for customers, I'm also able to look at the costing as well. And as much as making nice food is important, we are in the business of making money as well. And we need to make sure that our menus and recipes are costed accordingly and right for our customers. So again, having that functionality there. So basically, I think to sort of summarize the question is everything is there in a nutshell from start to finish. A few clicks of a mouse, if you like, and ultimately can be shared really, really easy with staff and with customers. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, Danny. Thanks. I think it's always really useful to hear from people actually using the solution, so that hopefully some of the benefits can be outlined. And there's a couple of really key points there, not just about the solution, but about the challenges that the businesses are facing into. Pandemic being one of them, obviously, and the restrictions being eased and the challenges being faced into there still. Natasha's law just around the corner, but we've said it already, probably more changes are going to come, or highly likely more changes are going to come into the future as well. And that's what I want to move on to now, really, and what I want the core of this session to become is Danny and I work closely with businesses day in, day out, and we're hearing a lot of the challenges, the queries and the concerns that are being faced with the instruction of Natasha's law combined with everything else. So Danny and I have worked through 5 of the most common scenarios that we get asked about that seem to be being faced into by food service operators. And we're just going to spend a few minutes now working through each one of those to help provide some guidance on how to tackle them. And also just to help assure you that there are resolutions that can be put in place to ultimately ensure that you can get the right label put on the right product at the right time, which is the key focus for the next few months. So I am just going to share my screen. Bear with me one moment. And what we should see on screen is, as I say, we've pulled together some of the scenarios, and Danny and I are going to work through each one and hopefully put some guidance around all of those. So the first one is a challenge that we get asked about frequently, which there's been so many challenges, as we've said already. Natasha's law is suddenly only 3 months away. You know, it suddenly doesn't seem very far away at all. It's really difficult to keep up with everything else that needs to be done day to day. And businesses are just saying, what should I have done by now? Am I behind the curve? Am I on track? Do I need to do anything from here to get myself up to speed? So I'll probably start with that by saying, most importantly, by now, you should know which of your suppliers are being used across all of your operations, whether you're a single site or a multi-site operator, providing PPDS foods. And you should know for definite whether those suppliers can provide you with the full ingredient and allergen information that they are required to provide you by law. And we alluded to that earlier, that the hard work that Brakes have been putting in for many years now to be able to ensure that they can provide you full ingredients and allergen markers in all the products that they sell. Another important point just to note, that if you do work with any suppliers that are located outside of the UK or the EU, you must make them aware of the 14 allergens that they need to send information to you on, because it's quite possible that in their country, such as the US, for example, that their allergen markers are very, very different. So if you do nothing else now, make a list of the suppliers that you work with and ensure that they can provide you the information that they're required to give you by law. And Danny, you've probably got some things to add around that as well on the supplier side of things.
Yeah, no, completely. I think, you know, the real sort of standout for me is certainly as we've gone through COVID, we're seeing a lot of places, I want to say de-skilling their establishments, but using a lot more of the ready-made stuff for ease, not knowing how many customers are going to be there, etc. So it's kind of really, really important that if you are using things like ready-made sauces, and the example I use is a black bean sauce to go over a Chinese dish that you're going to have in a takeaway container, and it's got chicken, rice and black bean sauce in there. It's important that every single ingredient of every single product is listed on that ingredient label. It's no good just putting chicken, black bean sauce, rice, because that's not telling the customer anything. The black bean sauce may have an allergy in there that we need to make sure is obviously on that label, if you like. So, you know, as much as it seems, you know, we can just label it nice and simply, just make sure we've got every single detail on there. Like I say, I suppose the beauty of buying through Brakes to Business, that traceability factor as well. So all our information is updated and it's correct constantly, if you like. If there are any changes, we'll make you aware of those. As far as the Nutritics system goes and workload, you might be freaking out going, well, I'm going to have to change a whole load of recipes now. The beauty of the system is as well that if there is a substitution on a particular recipe, and I'll bring the English muffin back in as an example, that you've got as a breakfast item and the product's changed, you can quite simply go into that recipe, you can right click and you can create a copy and you can replace that one item in there and call that English muffin temporary, if you like, as an alternative code. So really, really straightforward. I think don't get freaked out by it. Yes, there's slight changes. A couple of other bits, if you like, from me, I'd like to sort of add there as well is operationally, you know, if you've you're handling allergens, if you've got a designated area perhaps in your kitchen, that you can do that, or if you haven't, you just make sure it's managed the fact that you maybe handle the allergens first and make sure you have a good sort of deep clean, sanitize down after each one of those things, sort of thing. So the other thing I really sort of wanted to say, and it sort of came to me when we were having a discussion yesterday, Claire, was that the other thing really is to sort of, when you speak to your staff, is that the allergen law actually came into play in December 2014. So the other big call out here from a staff confidence point of view is that we've been handling these allergens, if you like, for 7 years, 8 years. I've lost track of, can't count. We lost the year last year, so it doesn't matter. But we've been dealing with it since 2014, or the back end of 2014. So as much as there is something new coming, we've actually got a good chunk of the work already done. We should already be knowledgeable about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Danny, is that it can become a bit overwhelming. And actually, a lot of businesses have got this down already. And it's just that there's a lot of noise about Natasha's Law at the moment. And actually, a lot of the processes that they've put in place already, operational and risk mitigation processes, just need to be applied to the allergen management process as well. You know, they've done this before, and they can do it again. And all that I would add in there is it can seem daunting, it can seem confusing. And that's why Brakes and Nutritics are here together to help support and guide where possible. Automated solutions do absolutely make that task of time-consuming analysis much more efficient, and it greatly reduces that risk of human error as well, which Danny explains so perfectly with substituted products, for example. So by using a solution like Virtual Chef, it's fully compliant, integrates with label printing processes. And I would just add here that if you haven't yet, as well as looking at your supply chain, is that you also evaluate any automated processes that you have in place. And if you need to look at Virtual Chef or want to know more about it, contact your Brakes account manager. Contact Danny or myself. All of that information will be shared in resources at the end of this session, and we can help you with that moving forward. But I think there's some really valid points there, Danny, to help break down some of the challenges being faced at the moment. So another challenge that we get asked quite frequently about is more from the operations side of things, and it's all about staff. Making sure that staff understand the changes that are coming, but combining that with the challenges over the past 12-15 months of staff furlough. And also, we all know from the media that it's very difficult to recruit staff at the moment, especially into hospitality, food service operations. So there is a huge challenge there. And how can we help with that? So, Danny, you work with a lot of the operational sides of the businesses of Brakes customers. Have you got anything from your experience there of how to help with the training of staff and getting them up to speed?
Yeah, so training's always an interesting one. As I mentioned at the start, part of our job is to understand our customers, is to go in, do a few assessments, if you like, work out what's what, what the restrictions are, what the equipment is, etc. So that's part of our day-to-day role, if you like. You mentioned furlough there, and a lot of people have had a lot of time off. Hospitality struggling for staff, etc. So training is absolutely key. Knowledge is key, and giving the whether it be new starters coming in the right information to work with is 100%. That's where we need to be. I did some work recently throughout the lockdown with a customer of mine that historically have served offices lunches. They've sent in buffets to offices, etc. Whether that be hot buffet, cold buffet, etc. And obviously a lot of business and industry just shut overnight. There was no massive need for that as far as their business goes. So they went from doing that, and they thought, actually, rather than just us sitting doing nothing, we're going to turn our business model on our head, which is what they did. And they opened up a dark kitchen. And a dark kitchen, I've got apologies if you do know, but I'll just briefly explain, is basically where they have a kitchen where they have several brands coming out of it. So it might be hot dogs, burgers, burritos, pizzas out of one kitchen, different brands, and it gets basically delivered via a third-party delivery. Just Eat, other popular ones are obviously available. And so they went from doing buffets to this dark kitchen. Same staff, but the staff were used to making sandwiches, making hot casseroles and soups to send out at lunchtime, and straight away they flipped it onto their head and they're having to create this funky sort of street foodie type offer that is quick serve. So again, they've gone from having, you know, a good chunk of time to prepare these buffets to all of a sudden its ticket comes through. Actually, it needs to be cooked and ready within about 15 minutes for it to go out with the delivered company. So their business model flipped on their head, and they needed to retrain their staff, if you like. So what I did, I sort of went in there and explained the situation to them, and I showed them step by step. We went through the allergen information, the importance of it, this, that, and the other. So I think the point I'm trying to make is, yes, staff training is absolutely really, really vitally important, and it doesn't matter whether you think it's something really, really small. You know, the more information the staff have got, the more aware of it they've got. Fantastic. Have that information readily available. And like I say, having a tool like Nutritics, the information is all there in one place for those guys to see. The only thing I would say on it as well, and and I've just made a note as you guys were talking to kind of come to me, it's okay not to know the information, and won't make a customer wait and say, actually, not quite sure on that, I'll go and find out for you. Or if you don't know, is just be brutally honest and say, listen, I don't know. Because as far as allergens, as we know, you can't mess around with allergens. They're very, very serious. So if you're unsure and you don't know, that's fine. You know, it's not ideal, but ultimately, if we get it wrong, you know, the consequences aren't great at all, sort of thing. So yeah, the long and short of my answer is yes, training is massively important. Yeah, get you guys up to speed with it.
Yeah, and that's really interesting to hear about real-time scenarios, because obviously businesses have had to change their models a lot over the last 15 months. So it's another factor to consider. And I would absolutely endorse what Danny has said, is that staff training is key, but importantly, they should understand the changes and the reasons for them and what their role is in all of this. They are the people day to day who are going to be speaking to the consumer. So it's really key that they understand that they're a critical kind of cog in the wheel, really. Again, Danny alluded to it, using a software solution like Virtual Chef just helps to remove the risk of human error. It can automate the ingredient inputting process, and that just lifts again a huge concern off staff shoulders, knowing that they're actually protected by an automated solution. So it's definitely worth evaluating that. And the only other thing that I would add there is that Nutritics are running a totally free conference at the beginning of July, and it's all recorded so you can dip into it later. But we are running a dedicated session on staff training. And we're going to have a ton of resources around that too to help support you, because staff training will be key across July, August and September to make sure everyone's ready for October. We'll share some information on that conference at the end of this session in the resources, and you can register. But I would absolutely recommend that you either come along to that virtual conference and listen in, or that you revisit it when you have, 20-30 minutes free, just so that you can be given support and guidance about staff training, so that you can build all of those processes into your business. Okay, so another challenge, again, this is certainly a question that I get asked in my role at Nutritics as a business development manager, because one of the solutions is the label making thing. And actually, more than anything, I think this is causing a lot of confusion. So it's all around saying, well, we already do labeling, we put it on foods, but all of that labeling needs to change because so much more information will have to go on a label from the 1st of October. So that's the food name, the full ingredient list, and making sure the allergens are emphasised either in bold and a different colour or in italics. So I'll probably just take this one actually quickly and say the first thing that you should do if you do need to produce labels in your business for PPDS foods is follow the FSA guidelines. They are published, and you can go onto our free resource centre, again, which we'll share with you at the end of the session, to find answers to frequently asked questions such as these, and it will take you through to collateral to help support you in what those guidelines are. But you will need to ensure, using those FSA guidelines, that your product contains the right size label, and as I've said already, the product name, correct font, and it lists the ingredients. But not only list those ingredients have to be in order of weight, and the allergens have to be clearly indicated in bold or underlined or in a different colour. Brakes stock a range of back of house labels that can be applied to food storage containers to clearly highlight the allergens, and then you can present all of those labels to the team so that they're covered in those kitchen food production areas. So that's a really great tool to be aware of. And additionally, again, Virtual Chef includes a setting to automatically print labels to the standards required by Natasha's law, so it takes that decision away from you. The system puts all of that control in place for you. So for example, if there was any missing information, such as the product name, the software offered to you via Brakes will alert you to that fact. So again, it's about evaluating the processes that you have at the moment. What do you do today, and how will Natasha's law change that? And if you feel that there is any risk of accidental human error, then you should look at any automated solutions that you can bring in, not just to get you ready for Natasha's law, but also things that can just bring benefit to your business, so that all of your staff can be doing the things that they're great at, you can be producing fantastic food, and you can just know then that the burden of ensuring that you're compliant with food legislation is taken away via software. So absolutely evaluate everywhere where you produce labels at the moment and ensure that you can be compliant. So moving on to the next area, and I know this is something that Danny will be able to really provide some guidance on. So it's around those food production areas. And it's all around the seasonal variations. And again, this is something that people feel that almost they'll need to dumb down because of the issues or the implications coming in with Natasha's law. A question that I get asked frequently, and I know Danny does as well, is, well, actually, should we just stop producing fantastic menus and just buy in a ton of prepackaged goods from suppliers that have the label on already? Danny, what would you say to that?
I'll give you my politically correct answer, but the simple answer is no, we shouldn't be dumbing down menus. Ultimately, we are, or our customers, should I say, are a business. They need to generate money. They need to offer a good service to their customers, whatever sector they're in. You know, if it's hospitality, whether it's care, whether it's education, the food needs to be good. It needs to be tasty. It needs to be nutritious. It needs to comply with allergen information. There's lots of stuff going on there. It needs to do all of that, but actually it needs to be really, really tasty as well. And I think, you know, as far as seasonality goes, there's lots of noise around local, around British food as well. You know, we have some great products that's produced in Britain, around the world, etc. You know, certain times of year, asparagus, you know, sort of April, May time, strawberries in the summer. There's no reason we shouldn't be using these products. A, they're cheaper at that time, and B, they taste absolutely superb. But that, with allergen information, should we be dumbing the menus down? Completely not. As I alluded to earlier, you know, you've got a recipe that's in Virtual Chef Online, and you know, it's got something in there and you want to change it for something a little bit more seasonal. It's just really, really straightforward in the fact that you can just right click on it and you can look at replacing that product if you want to, and then creating another recipe with it. So no reason at all why we should be changing menus, certainly around allergen information. The stuff's too good. Like I say, produce wise, when you look at produce at certain times of year, it's just too good not to be using on your menus. And why not shout about that more in your sites, because actually your customers are like that as well. The fact that you're using seasonal products, that you're using the local product, etc. So that's really, really important, but as just as important as getting the allergen information correct. But under no circumstances, if it was my operation or I was dealing with chefs and this, I'd certainly say do not dumb down your menus. It's not about an easy life. It's about making something good and tasty for the customer.
Yeah, I agree. And it's about embracing the change, I suppose, isn't it? And I think what has saddened me the most is hearing businesses say how they are just thinking of undoing all of the hard work and the vision to create exceptional menus due to the fear around Natasha's law. And it just doesn't have to be the case, because there are solutions out there, as we've been saying. So, for example, in Virtual Chef, it captures any supply changes, it flags them to you automatically. If there's been a change in a component ingredient, you'll be alerted immediately. The system will automatically note any allergens and feed those changes all the way through to your recipe management process, to the label generation and the printing element of the software, and it is literally with that click of a button. So again, it just goes back to Brakes and Virtual Chef in that central warehouse, controlling all of the information. If you have that one-stop shop which produces the one version of the truth, then actually I think the operations can flourish, because that vision can continue to be embraced, and that guest satisfaction, as you said, Danny, can absolutely be increased. So I would encourage everyone to not be put off by the changes and actually embrace them, face into them, and use us so that we can support you and get you up and running for what that means moving forward.
I think we've touched on it as well, Claire, there with, and sorry to cut across, but we've touched on it with COVID and site de-skilling and not knowing how business is going to be. We're seeing a huge increase in levels with customers and food and people eating out, etc. But I think to start with, there was very much a nervousness around how busy are we going to be? How long will it last? Will the government lock things down again? But I think it should get a little bit easier as things are opening up more and as restrictions are lifting more. But I get the nervousness around it. But then, like I say, back to the original point at the very start about what the Brakes Dev Chefs do is support with that. So it's what products we can potentially look at that will save you a little bit of time, save you a little bit of labour, reduce the risk of cost and wastage, etc. So just because it doesn't seem in the first instance it's doable, doesn't mean that it's actually not, with a little bit of thought process and obviously our product knowledge, etc.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it really does provide that full 360 support, doesn't it? Thanks, Danny. And then just very quickly, what we want to touch on. So again, this is a question that business owners, staff leaders, etc., are asking us all the time, is they're suddenly realising that, heck, you know, we're coming to late June. There is now only 3 months to go until October the 1st. What do I need to be focused? So where should I be by now? But what do I really need to be focused on from here? Just tell me, what do I need to be doing? And again, I would just kick that off by saying the first step is to review and refine. So review all of your suppliers, as I've previously advised. Ensure you're getting all of the information that you need from them to conform to the law. But also alongside that, start checking your deliveries and identifying how best to manage substitutions. Check your labels. Are the fonts correct? Is the information clear and legible? And also, we touched heavily on it, but on the staff. Are the staff clear on why the changes are being introduced and what their roles will be moving forward? So, Danny, is there anything more on that you would add into what needs to be focused on these next few months?
I think really just to emphasise the point we've touched on quite a bit is the staff training. Actually understanding and knowing what Natasha's law is, what's expected. It is about that PPDS category, the labelling of foods. Training is really, really key. Can you look at potentially having a champion in your site, somebody to sort of take ownership of it, sort of a go-to person if there's any questions, concerns? Do you need, what part of your business actually needs to have labelling on foods, if any, because there's a good chunk of businesses that may not need it. So I suppose really just sitting back a little bit, taking stock of what's going on, understanding it, which hopefully, you know, we've covered quite a few of those areas today, and don't get freaked out by it. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, we've been dealing with allergen laws since 2014. All we're basically doing now is putting that information onto a label and putting it onto a food product. And I'm not playing it down because it's really, really important. But actually, when you look at it, that's what it's all about. And I suppose just really touching back on Virtual Chef Online, all that information is there in one place. At the click of a button or a few drag and drops of a button, you can get that information from a recipe to go onto your packaging. So it should make life a lot easier. But training and knowledge is key, as it is with most things, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely, Danny. And I would just emphasize what you said there, that it's not too late to get started, but now is definitely the time to focus and get ready. So what Danny said there around suppliers, me saying ensuring that they have the information needed to provide you, plus the staff training is key. And look at it now. We'll be sharing some further resources around Virtual Chef and Natasha's Law overall at the end of this session. And just ensure that the solutions that you have can support the allergen process and the label requirements needed. The only thing I would add there is it is going to be important for you to be able to run a trial run before the 1st of October. Certainly our best practice is to try and make this happen over the next month so that you can stress test all the essential aspects of your supply chain. That includes your stock and your supplier processes, your software compliance checks, your staff training processes. It really is a 4-step process of supplier, stock, software and staff. And it's not just a case of being ready for the 1st of October, but actually being able to manage those changes permanently from that date. And again, just try and embrace the change. There is actually a bit of a sales benefit to being able to conform to Natasha's Law. Certainly, I can see that there's a big trend for consumers wanting more prominence on allergens and ingredients so that they can make more informed food choices. They want to be able to find out what is in their food and choose their food appropriately around that. So actually, by doing this, you can help to increase trade. And then there's so much more that you can do to help make your operation run more effectively. And that's just by having those foundations in place. So just make sure that you can be covered for what's going to come imminently. And then also that can help you be covered for any changes that are going to start happening post the 1st of October as well. So, Fran, I'm going to hand back to you. They're the common scenarios that we've certainly gone through there. I know now that you want to also provide some more help and support with some webinars that are coming up, also share those resources, and we do just also have a few minutes. I can see that there's been quite a few questions being posted as well. So I know that we just want to spend a few minutes looking at those and providing some answers also.
Yeah, no, thank you, Claire. I wanted to just let you know about some of the fantastic resources that we've got available to you to help today. So I'm just getting those up on screen to take you through what they are. So we've got the QR code here for you to be able to scan and download and take away. On here, you'll be able to download the brochure that Nutritics and Brakes have put together, giving you a really good overview of the functionality of Virtual Chef. There's also details Claire outlined here of the conference happening in July, which has got some really important information for you on staff training and other ways that you can prepare. And also we've included Claire's contact details for you here as well, so you can get in touch should you want any more information following today's session. And then we also just wanted to tell you a little bit about the other webinars that you can access that have happened already, but also what else is planned. So just to let you know, we've had a few webinars happen over the last couple of weeks. So you can access Natasha's Law Part 1 by going onto YouTube or the Brakes website and following the links to the event page from there. We also had a session on minimising food waste a couple of days ago. That was really good. So some great top tips in there. And also a trends webinar this week. We were joined by the CGA, who took us through the up and coming food trends and kind of how the pandemic has been affecting consumers and our industry. So some great sessions there to catch up on, as I mentioned. And then we've also got some brilliant sessions coming up over the next week or so. So we're joined by Bibendum on the 1st of July, who are going to be doing a masterclass in food and wine pairing. So great if you're having a think about your wine menu over the coming months, or just want to reassess your offering at the moment. Really good session from them. And then we've got the first of 2 social media sessions. The first one's on the 8th of July, which covers how to get started if you're thinking about your social media strategy for your business, or you've been put on point for it, or you just want to assess what you're doing, whether or not you could be doing any more, and just as a bit of a refresher session. That's really good. On the 13th of July, we're delighted to be joined by Love British Food, who will be talking about the benefits of putting British food on your menu and some great ways to do that. And then finally, on the 15th of July, we have our second social media session, which is a really great overview of 5 free tools that you can use to really help take your social media strategy to the next level. So please don't miss out on those. Do sign up from the Brakes event page, which you can follow the links from the homepage on the Brakes website. And if you do miss them, obviously we've got them there. We'll be recording them so you can go back and watch them later. So that was that. And then I guess we have had some questions come through. So we were just going to, I was just going to ask those, if that's all right, Claire and Danny.
Of course.
So without further ado, first question that's come through, and Claire, this might be one for you, but is there a big cost to businesses to get ready for Natasha's Law?
It really depends on where a business is and where they need to get to. And what I would say is that, yes, potentially there is some cost if PPDS food is offered on the menus or the foods that are provided. What I would try and do, I think I mentioned it at the end of the session, was actually seeing this as more of a business benefit rather than a business cost. So as I've said already, and I know certainly me as a consumer, I'm very keen to understand the allergens and the nutritional information within my food. I'm definitely more I want to go to establishments where I can find that information, and actually the trends are showing that can increase footfall and trade. So try and look at it in that way, that it can actually increase business and footfall, but that also by choosing solutions like Virtual Chef, it's not just about getting you ready for the 1st of October. It is actually a solution alongside everything else that Brakes produce. It is actually solutions that can prepare you for now and long term into the future as well. So really outweigh any cost against the benefits that it can bring the business overall, because more than likely the return on investment can be realised very, very quickly.
Yeah. Annie, I think this is one for you, if that's okay. I had a customer ask, it was interesting to hear from Danny, are you seeing your role that the issue of allergens is now being taken more seriously than perhaps it has been in the past?
I nearly spoke without unmuting. I think to a degree, yes, in the fact that obviously Natasha's Law is coming into force, it's coming into play. But I've alluded to several times that we've been dealing with allergens way before, well, even since 2014, if you like. So yes, it's being spoke about more, which can only be a good thing at the end of the day, because as I said earlier, somebody that suffers or has an allergen impacts them in many ways, and obviously Natasha's story is very, very sad. and it ended in a way that we hope we'll never have to sort of deal with, if you like. So yes, it's being taken more serious for the right reasons, but it's always been there, if you like. And I suppose just touching back on Claire's point about sort of places having the right information there as well. My wife actually suffers from a nut allergy, and we're very careful and mindful when we go out to places. So again, I think by having the right tools gives customer confidence. And another way of describing it, I think we're seeing the vegan trend go up and up and up. Love it or hate it, but we're also seeing that if you're a table of 6 or 8 people going out, or maximum of 6, is it COVID? I've lost track of what we're allowed to do and we're not to. But if there's one vegan in your party and there's not a vegan choice on the menu, that party is going to go elsewhere. And I see it very much like that with the allergen information. I follow quite a lot of social media, and certainly there's a big gluten-free celiac awareness groups going on, and they're constantly making noises about restaurants that are doing particularly well as far as managing the gluten intolerance, which obviously sits within an allergy. So I think, yeah, getting it right, having the right tools for it will ultimately drive business. But yeah, it is being taken more serious, to answer your question.
Thanks, Danny. I've had one question come through. Have we got any information about the cost of labelling through Virtual Chef Online?
Yeah, all that I would say there is, and that it's important for us to understand your business so that we can give you a solution that works, so we can make sure it's the right fit for you. And that it's as cost effective as possible as well. So if you are already a Brakes customer, then contact your Brakes account manager so that they can enter into those discussions. If you are not, feel free to contact me. So it's just claire@nutritics.com. It's in the resources that we shared as well. Let's get that very informal chat started, even if it's not the right solution for you. And let's just make sure that you're ready for the changes that are to come in.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Michelle, who sent that in. A question actually about Brexit, probably one for you, Claire. Has Brexit or the pandemic really impacted any of the processes that companies would usually have in place, or availability of any materials needed, do you know?
Yeah, Brexit.
Good question, isn't it?
Yes, and I know that Brakes had a great webinar on Brexit the other day, which was really, really interesting hearing about it. There's been so many challenges this last couple of years that there's no getting away from it, and we're seeing those challenges today in terms of supply chain, getting the goods delivered out, being able to employ staff for certain roles. So yes, we are definitely seeing impacts from Brexit combined with the pandemic that's putting more and more pressure on the sector, and that's exactly why we're holding these kind of webinars, to try and help everyone get up and running and ready. So yes, I would say that there's definite impact, which is why I would advise don't delay, start looking into it now. The changes are going to happen, despite all of the pressures that are happening, and whether, as we said already, and Danny summarised it perfectly a moment ago, whether that's the government bringing in legislation change or actually just demand coming from consumers who want to eat out. We have to transform and meet those needs. So yes, there are definite challenges. Hopefully some of the things that we've said today and that sharing the resources will help with that. And the only other thing I would say as well about not delaying is that in terms of hardware for labelling, we are starting to see signs that demand is starting to outstrip supply as well. So it is just something else to consider, that if you do feel that you need printer and labelling solutions, again, that is something to start assessing now. See if you got the right things in place, and if not, start planning for that now. Don't leave it until the 30th of September.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Claire. And the thing
printers will be like toilet roll in the pandemic last year.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So I think one for yourself, Claire and Danny, actually, do you think that complying with Natasha's law is achievable at this stage for food businesses? I don't know who wants to answer that one first.
Is it achievable? It's happening, and whether we think it's achievable or you don't think it's achievable, it needs to happen. But actually, you know, I'm listening to Claire speak about Brexit and issues and this, that, and the other. It's like I say, I've worked in catering, in hospitality for a number of years, and one thing hospitality or caterers are a strong and determined people, and we'll make it work. As I've said numerous times during this call, allergens have been around a long time. There are a few tweaks that we need to make, a few changes that we need to make, is the way I personally see it. We're not asking people to go to the end of the world and back. We're asking them to think about what they're putting on their label, making sure the labels are correct, and that's pretty much it. So in my eyes, absolutely achievable with that little bit of training, that little bit of extra thought process. Yes, it's change. It'll take a little bit of time to get used to, but Claire's mentioned several times, think about it now, get used to it, little steps, and it'll just fall into your day job.
Yeah, and all I would add to that is that actually, whilst we're dealing with challenges, and we focused a lot on the challenges today, I am actually seeing, and I know Danny's the same, and all of the Brakes team is, we're actually seeing food service operators really embrace this change. It's really heartening to see, because they can see the bigger picture. So to Danny's point, don't panic. Don't stick your head in the sand. There are people, resources, solutions, everything that we've shown you today out there to help you. So start looking into it now, get in touch with us, and let us support you further from there.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Claire. That's great. Well, I think that's all of the questions that have come through. So huge thanks, everybody, for joining us today and watching. Huge thanks obviously to Danny and Claire for running this great session for us. If you missed any of it, like I say, you can watch it back again. We'll also include the QR code and short link to download the resources that go with it as part of the final video as well. So if you didn't get a chance to scan them in the session, don't worry, we'll make those available afterwards as well. So without further ado, huge thanks everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.